Hello Dragons, today we're going to discuss how to write the introduction and conclusion for each chapter, and then I'll also talk about how also to do it for the final paper. So for your introduction in chapter 4, you should have 4 paragraphs that are done. 2 points for one topic and 2 points for the second topic. So the introduction is basically just to say what you're going to talk about. So for example, if your 2 topics were the Berlin blockade and the Yalta and Potsdam, you could start something like this. In this section, I will discuss who started the Cold War. It started with Yalta and Potsdam, where the leaders had many disagreements. And then you can give 2 to 3 facts here explaining what you mean. Then, tensions in the Cold War continued with the Berlin blockade, and then you give 2 or 3 more facts. So what you have to do is you just have to change up which topics you have, insert the topics here, and you might need to just, you'll want to change a little bit here and maybe a little bit here. But the connecting words and the formula is the same. In this section, I'll discuss this, give some facts, and this, and give some more facts. It's okay if you do it exactly like this and say exactly word for word what I said, but it's also go ahead and put in your feelings or tweak it up to make it more personal. Now make sure you put things in chronological order. So when you would not say in this discussion in this section I will discuss who started the Cold War. It started in Berlin blockade and later continued in Yalta. No, that's backwards because Yalta happened first before Berlin blockade. So make sure you give the facts first. So if you're talking about ideology in Yalta and Potsdam, ideology comes before Yalta and Potsdam. If you're talking about martial aid in Berlin blockade, then you put the one that comes first, martial aid and then Berlin blockade. Okay, if you have any questions about that, please send me a WhatsApp. The next thing is the conclusion. The conclusion is just summing up what you've already said in that section. When you write your conclusion, you need to say which sides you agree with. In the example, who caused the Cold War in chapter 4? You need to pick a side. You can't say they both did. I want you to pick one side or the other. Use words like I strongly agree, or I strongly disagree, or I mostly agree, and use or believe. I strongly believe, I somewhat believe, I mostly believe. Then you restate a few points that you've already said in the 4 paragraphs ahead of you to help you basically so the reader can see why you chose that. And there's some other points that you can pull in that you haven't said. Maybe you didn't say anything about Marshall Plan because you were just talking about the Berlin blockade and you didn't discuss that part in Yalta and Potsdam. So you can go ahead and throw some Marshall Plan there. Or maybe you didn't really specify about the ideologies and how communism and capitalism just really don't coincide together. You can throw that point in. So go ahead and throw an additional point in. When you're done with your chapter 4 conclusion, the next thing you do is you go on to the next step, and we are going to write about Cuba. Now for Cuba, since it's only 1/3 of all of chapter 5, it's really just easiest if one of your topics is the Cuba Revolution and the Americans' response to it, which is the Bay of Pigs, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. Just like you previously did, for each topic, you're going to write 2 paragraphs. So when you're finished with the 4 paragraphs, you're going to write an introduction and a conclusion, just like I had previously explained. Now here's the biggest warning I can give you. When you're writing about Cuba, especially the Cuban Revolution, you're going to talk a lot about Castro, and that's what you have to do. So when you're talking about Castro, though, you need to make sure you link it back to JFK and Khrushchev. It's very easy to link it back to them, but you need to do it. So it shouldn't just be a paragraph about Castro, because you're talking about who caused the Cold War, America or USSR. So discuss Castro, but link it back to either JFK or Khrushchev or both. Okay, the next thing you have to do is you're going to go to your overall introduction. You've now finished writing 6 paragraphs for chapter 4, your 4 paragraphs about your topics, and your introduction and conclusion, and 6 paragraphs for chapter 5. So you have a total of 12 paragraphs right now. So in the introduction, it's just like your chapter introductions. You're going to write background information about both chapters. And you can do it something like this. In this paper, I'll discuss who is to blame the Cold War. It started with problems with the leaders right after World War II. Then give 2 or 3 facts of problems. Later, tensions in the Cold War heightened with Cuba almost causing World War III. Give 2 or 3 facts here. Again, you can take that exact formula and use those exact words I said, or you can come up with your own words. That's something that makes you feel a bit better. But basically the idea in your introduction is to give a little overview about what you're going to talk about. Then finally, the overall conclusion. Now, your conclusion is the most important paragraph. It's what brings that paragraph up there to make it an excellent paragraph and paper instead of just a good paper. When you're writing your conclusion, you need to state which side you agree with. So who is to blame for the Cold War? You must pick a side. So you can strongly believe, somewhat agree, mostly agree. So if you're not really wanting to pick a side, the mostly agree or mostly believe would be the side that you would choose. Or you could say something like, I think they were equally responsible for the Cold War, but I mostly believe that America was at fault. Then you're going to restate from a few points from each of the chapters and things that you have already said. So this is just a repeat, pulling it out, but not detailed about it, just stating why you believe it. And then there's other things that you might not have mentioned in your paper to help you determine what it is. Then you can finally say, as you can see, this is why I somewhat believe that the Cold War was caused by, pick a side. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer. It truly doesn't matter which side you believe in or which side you write that you believe in. You just need to pick a side and prove why that side is the cause. Sometimes it's easiest to do that if you pick the side that you don't believe in. If you believe the United States was the cause, then you try to prove that Russia is the cause. If you believe that Russia is the cause, then you can try to prove that the United States is the cause. And that way it's sometimes easier to prove the other side for what you believe, because if you believe something, sometimes you think, obviously, that is it. I don't have to explain it. So I hope that helped. If you have any questions whatsoever, please send me some WhatsApp, or if you're in class, go ahead and just ask me. Hope you have a great day. Bye.